Okay, Steven, so let's just have a quick recap of what we've had until now. We've discovered the difference between the connection and industrial economy and how you should approach it as a business owner offering professional services. We already found your spot in the marketplace, your little niche. We've developed the Purple Cow and the Irresistible Offer. And we already know how to distribute the content, how Google actually works. We've shared our story, but today we're going to be touching upon a very trendy subject, which is disruption. And it seems that everybody uses it nowadays. But could you please elaborate a little bit more on what exactly disruption is and what it really means?
Well, disruption for me is driven by this idea that a certain sort of realm of economic activity has been carried on in that way for so long that it has essentially completely mastered all the dynamics of the industrial economy, and that the main operators in those spaces have been able to develop what are really commanding positions over time. In such cases even, where you've got individual players that have got upwards of 50% of the total market, with everybody else scrambling around, trying to sort of, pick up the scraps off the table, as it were. But, as we do move from the industrial economy to the connection economy, all of that is changing. So disruption for me is about doing an assessment of how it's traditionally been done, doing an assessment of how you think your proposition, if you do something different, will be accepted in the marketplace. But also doing something that shifts the ground from underneath the feet of your competition. I was fortunate because I learned between 1996 and 2000 that if you put free content on the internet in your niche, you liberate that marketplace from the tyranny of a vacuum of information. So what was once previously scarce in the industrial economy, information that is, that leads ultimately to, in my instance, a particular professional service outcome that represents the value that you deliver. In the industrial economy, it was a scarcity. In the connection economy, if you publish and you share all your knowledge and all your experience, and you do it in such a way so that it's actionable, so that people who have a need to action the expertise that you have as manifested in the proposition you put out on the internet, they will be able to make new determinations about the value that is actually being exchanged. In my instance, when I provide a visa solution, the value that's being exchanged historically was based on fear. It was based on, I don't know how this works, and unless I ask you to do it for me, I'm not going to get the outcome. So that's all driven by scarcity. Whereas if you publish as we do and share all your IP as we do and configure that IP so it can be readily accepted by the people that are accessing it, they're then in a position to make informed decisions about ultimately what your value proposition is. So when it came to sort of disrupting our marketplace, you can say we disrupted it by establishing the proposition that ultimately you can't compete against free. So by putting something free out there, and then as Don Tapscott says, disaggregate and reaggregate value, understanding what it is that you're delivering, ultimately the value that you deliver, then you can settle on a new proposition that touches and concerns the customer in a way that previously wasn't immediately apparent to them. So as I've said previously, our disruptive motif is that we sell peace of mind. We don't sell a visa label and a passport, and we don't sell avoidance of queues at the immigration department. Of course, all those are features and they're all benefits of what we do, but they're not the value that's being delivered. So in an industrial economy type business, it was based on scarcity, it was based on fear, it was based on lots of dynamics that built up over time that represented how that marketplace was best served by society. Today in the connection economy, because you can publish, you can share information, you can create relationships very easily, you can get to know people, you have the ability to demonstrate your authenticity, your vulnerability, truthful and honestness, earnestness. People, especially if you use video, can get to know both, what you are like as an individual and what your organisation is as well. And if you've used all of the capabilities of the modern internet in that way, and you, as I say, in our instance, as you publish, change the landscape of how the professional service dynamic is experienced because of the fact that you've settled on this idea that you can give your IP away for free and sell stuff that previously wasn't sold because you were still operating in the scarcity model, not an abundance model. That then fundamentally represents disruption par excellence. Now, I guess there's all kinds of disruption ahead of us in the future as well. Technology is moving at a rate of knots. For example, I've come to understand recently that we can expect within the next 25 years to have essentially a carbon-free energy economy globally. Solar is going to deliver all the energy that we need. Of course, it'll take a long time to reconfigure the totality of one's economic activity to move into a mere sort of solar-driven economy. But let's say 50 years from now, the economy then will look very different because of developments like that to where it looks today. As it looked different 50 years ago when, let's say, my niche, professional services, were being sold and delivered and experienced in a particular way. So yes, right now we're on the cusp of disrupting our niche because of the connection economy and all of that enables, but you've got to keep your eye on kind of what's going on out there to make sure that you keep up with whatever disruptive trends are in place. But once you've disrupted it once, because you are the disruptor and you know in a sense what it's like to have stolen a march on your competition who are the disrupted, you are undoubtedly not going to be disrupted in the future. Because in our situation now, what we're doing is we're constantly seeing what's out there, what's over the horizon, what technologies do we need to be appraised of. We can always settle on one simple fact, that in our niche, people will always be paying for peace of mind. And anything that happens in our mission to deliver peace of mind between now and, say, 25 or 50 years from now, that won't change. The mechanics of how we might go about delivering on that might change, but where we are as having been a disruptor means that we are very, very conscious of the fact that, if we can disrupt, then we can be disrupted. So it's disruption is also a mental orientation towards what you're doing, as well as something practical and tangible that you've delivered on as a result of adjustments in the business model and having taken advantage of everything that the connection economy has to offer.